In the modern era of basketball, offenses are dominated by the on-ball screen, and for good reason. The pick and roll is one of the best ways to create a quick advantage in which to play from. Offenses in the NBA, Europe, NCAA, and now high school are running on-balls at a higher rate than ever before. And from a young age, players are being taught the skills and intricacies of the pick and roll. And heck, check out our Twitter and YouTube. We love on-balls too. But today, we're going to take a deep dive, and I mean a really deep dive, looking at the modern 5-out motion offense. The origins and lineage of the motion offense stretch far back, with many tapping former Oklahoma State head coach Henry Iba with its invention. Iba passed his teachings to coaches like Eddie Sutton, Don Haskins, his assistant Bloomer Sullivan, and of course, legendarily, Bobby Knight. Knight famously consulted X&O wizard Pete Newell when devising his own version of motion or screening game. And from Knight's coaching tree, you can still see traces of it today with Chris Beard and Texas Tech. But by far, one of the most successful programs to run the modern 5-out motion offense in its truest and purest form is NCAA Division III Yeshiva University in New York. Yeshiva was one of the best teams in NCAA Division III this year and was an absolute offensive juggernaut, ranking number 1 in field goal percentage as a team, 2nd in three-point percentage and assists per game, and 4th in overall scoring margin. They had a cast of great players led by Gabe Leifer, who was a 4th-team All-American, senior Simha Halbert, which was a 2nd-team All-Conference performer, the Conference Rookie of the Year, Ofik Reef. Standout Ryan Terrell was a 1st-team All-American as a sophomore, and Coach Coach Steinmetz racked up many Coach of the Year awards nationally. We had the great opportunity to sit down with Coach Steinmetz in preparation for this breakdown video and go over at length and in depth about the specific tactics, strategies, and coaching points that he uses with his team. Coach Steinmetz is a wealth of knowledge on this offense and greatly helped in the production of this breakdown. His interview is well worth your time to check out. In this video, we will break down in detail 5 of the main concepts and rules that Yeshiva uses in their 5-out motion. The fundamentals of spacing, screening, the 2-second hold, proper use of the dribble, and playing through the post form the bedrock on which this offense is built. So here we go, settle in, as we break down the Yeshiva 5-out motion.
Let's get into unwrapping this motion by starting with Yeshiva spacing. Like any offense, spacing is vital to their success. 3 tenets we'll be analyzing are maintaining 15 to 17 feet of separation between each other, the emphasis placed on reestablishing space within their motion offense, and the importance of operating their actions above the motion line. Establishing their spacing is going to begin in transition, where they run not to spots, but rather to their strengths on the court. When we freeze it here, we can see the 2 bigs have run to the blocks and the 3 wings have spaced themselves above the arc, providing them with the space necessary to begin their screening and cutting actions. There is no mandatory formation they must establish in transition. 3 out, 2 in, 4 out, 1 in, 5 out is all acceptable. The spots they do fill, however, will determine how some of their initial actions will evolve. Here we see their desire to establish spacing, trigger number 23 to cut through and avoid 3 players loaded up on one side. A common action they use is setting back screens in transition, especially when their bigs or better post players are trailing. We see again, to start their transition, 3 players are running the same lane. Number 20 will cut through to properly space, which leads him right into a natural back screen. next important concept is stressing that all their action takes place above the motion line. Yeshiva wants this area free for cuts, drives, or posts. Therefore, they will not look to fill the corners, keeping defenders off the baseline and unable to provide help. Maintaining 15 to 17 feet and spacing above the motion line yields a tremendous amount of opportunistic cuts. The last tenet of their spacing is to always re-establish their space and balance the court after any given action. In short, they want to start and end every possession with proper spacing. They stress after any screen, drive, or cut to quickly shape up to an open spot on the three-point line, keeping the court spaced for the next action to take place. Putting it all together, watch as Yeshiva transitions down the court and establishes their spacing. See how after each cut or screen they will shape up to the three-point line. Notice how all their action takes place above the motion line. Eventually, they put the defense in a long closeout and can break them down with deep penetration and a dump off to number 11.
One of the fundamental concepts that Coach Steinmetz talks about within the offense is that of the 2-second hold. Coach Steinmetz wants his players on the perimeter or at the post to catch and pause for 2 seconds to read the action. This 2-second hold has multiple benefits for the offense. One, it slows down the mind of the players with the ball, allowing them to make better reads and decisions. And two, it allows time for the other 4 players to get into their screening and cutting actions. The beauty of this offense is the balance between the 2-second hold and the quick reverse. As seen in many of these clips, Yeshiva balances both holding and quick reversals in order to get into the offense. If they see an advantage, they'll quickly reverse it to the advantage. If not, they'll pause and wait for an advantage to take place.
Turning our attention to their screening action, we will look at a few general guidelines in determining a screen, the importance communication plays in the screening action, the value placed on opening up after the screen, and of course, reading the defense and using the screens. Coach Steinmetz and Yeshiva try to avoid screening rules. They want to be unpredictable and hard to guard, rather establishing a few principles and guidelines to aid their players. One principle being that the man closest to the midline should be the screener. Another principle is if there is a man below you, set a down screen. A man outside of you, set a back screen. Slowing this clip down, we see that following this principle leads organically into a great back screen, down screen action. Another guiding principle is to reward the reverse guy with a screen. And lastly, Coach Steinmetz encourages the use of flare screens, which flies in the face of some of the other guidelines, but is an effective weapon and adds more variety and unpredictability to their offense. A key component to playing unscripted and avoiding predetermined screens is communication. Therefore, Coach Steinmetz stresses to his players that they raise their fist and call out their teammate's name. In every possession, you can see the communication through constant use of their gesturing and fist. They have built up such a familiarity and chemistry with one another that you can begin to see them anticipate plays and set up certain screening actions. Additionally, Yeshiva stresses that their screeners open up and see the ball after every screen. More times than not, after a solid screen, the screener will be the one open. Everyone needs to be a threat on the court, not just the players with the ball or the ones receiving a screen. The screener needs to make himself a threat by quickly locating the ball and seeing how his man reacted to the screen. At the very minimum, opening up after a screen, even when well defended, allows the ball to keep moving and the motion to continue hunting for a solution. The last piece of the puzzle is reading the screens. We won't go into detail of all the ways to read a screen, rather highlighting Yeshiva's emphasis on not worrying about the ball when receiving a screen and try to be hard to guard. Yeshiva trusts in the motto that the ball will come to the action. Therefore, their players don't need to beg and chase for the ball after every screen. Now, let's put it all together and go through a typical Yeshiva possession. Focusing now on the dribble. Yeshiva's rules for the dribble are: use it to attack the basket, get out of trouble, improve your angle, or to balance the court. Yeshiva's offense is primarily based on screening and cutting. They of course encourage penetration when a player has an advantage, but try to avoid any exploratory dribbling and encourage the 2-second hold, allowing the screening and cutting action to develop. also very adept at replacing on the penetration. In this clip, number 4 penetrates baseline and number 42 replaces his vacated spot, creating space and leading to an open shot. It is important that the other 4 guys react to the penetration and continue to make space for their teammates. Yeshiva wants to be selective when they use their dribble. Unnecessary dribbling or over-dribbling can really disrupt their off-ball motion. Coach Steinmetz stresses patience and trust in the screening and cutting. Here, we see rather than letting the action develop, he takes an unnecessary dribble to the baseline, putting him in a poor angle and under pressure. In this clip, the player doesn't hold for a 2 count and instead begins taking exploratory dribbles, shrinking the court and disrupting the space required for the off-ball motion. These clips demonstrate the value of the 2-second hold, and when disturbed, the rhythm and spacing of the offense cannot properly adjust to the penetration.
Thanks, Pat, for that dissertation. Now we're going to move on to one of the most important parts of Yeshiva's offense, which is playing through the post. Yeshiva tries to throw the ball into the post or high post on almost every possession. And what makes them unique is having 5 players at any time that can duck into the post and make good decisions as the offense continues to flow. These opening clips are showing how Yeshiva uses a strong side cut to fill the block anytime a player sees an opening. This concept also holds true in transition, as you'll see in this clip here, where anytime a Yeshiva player sees an opening at the block, they will sprint and cut to fill it and try to play through the advantage. And here we see the value of communication between players, both verbally and non-verbally, as 2 Yeshiva players have the opportunity to come across and fill the strong side block. When the opposite post fills back to the perimeter, it leaves space for 11 to spin back, gain great post positioning, and finish the play. Another action that Yeshiva uses within the flow of their offense to enter to the post is with a cross screen. Within the flow of the offense, if a Yeshiva player curls, backdoors, or back cuts to the rim and does not receive a pass, they will then look to screen across for a fellow teammate for a post catch before filling back out to the perimeter. One of the fundamental and age-old concepts in teaching the motion offense is that of back screening yourself out of the post. Within the flow of Yeshiva's offense, any one of the 5 players can find themselves cutting and posting up. And in order to get back to the perimeter and keep the offense flowing, they will either back screen, flare, or slip and fill back out to the perimeter. In our interview with Coach Steinmetz, he spoke about the rule they have of rewarding a reversal with a back screen. The real value of the reversal to back screen concept is not so much that it directly leads to a basket all the time, but that it keeps those 2 defenders occupied and makes it nearly impossible for them to jump to their normal shell responsibilities as the ball is being reversed. An interesting thing that we see over and over again in watching clips of this offense is that the defense on the backside is often not even looking at the ball. Teams are so concerned with the constant flares, back screen, slips, and re-screening action that Yeshiva runs on the weak side that trying to keep the fundamentals of ball, you, man is nearly impossible for backside defenders. Let's move on now and take a look at the actual cutting and screening action that takes place on a post catch. It's worth noting that Yeshiva had 2 of the best passing big men in the country, led by Gabe Leifer, who had 200 assists on the year from the post spot in his All-American campaign. Leifer also led the country with 4 triple-doubles on the season. Yeshiva also relied heavily on senior Daniel Katz and his high IQ and ability to both pass and screen from the post position. As we've seen in earlier clips with screening and cutting from the perimeter, the same rules and concepts apply on a post catch. The Yeshiva players will continue to find players to screen either outside or below them and look for opportunities to slip to the rim should a defender fall asleep on the backside. Yeshiva's post play also received a major boost this year with the emergence of 6'7" sophomore forward Ryan Terrell. Terrell's ability as an elite scorer, as well as willing and capable passer, made Yeshiva's post action all the more problematic to guard this season. With Terrell almost always creating an advantage with a post catch, you see how Yeshiva utilizes spacing and late cutting actions when he has the ball at the block. Yeshiva's constant motion and backside cutting and screening action on a post catch also allows plenty of opportunity for the posts to go one-on-one while the defenders on the backside are occupied. We talked earlier about the value of the 2-second hold in Yeshiva's offense, and here we can see the posts playing slow, reading the advantage, seeing what's taking place on the backside, and simply getting to their spots to finish the play. And as previously mentioned, with Terrell being such an elite scorer and mismatch problem on the block, Yeshiva is more willing to spread their shooters to the perimeter, allowing more space for Terrell to operate in one-on-one scenarios from both the high post and the low post. And finally, with the effectiveness of Yeshiva's backside cutting and screening, as well as elite ability in one-on-one scenarios, teams would often employ a double team from the midline. Yeshiva combats this double in multiple ways. One, by diving the offensive player to the rim when his man goes to double. Secondly, by relocating and spacing on the perimeter with shooters, and being ready to catch and shoot when the kickout comes from the double. And lastly, utilizing the extra pass after the kickout from a post double. If a player does not immediately have a catch and shoot opportunity or a catch and drive to the rim on the post kickout, then the extra pass will allow the offense to take advantage of a defense in rotation. We hope you enjoyed this breakdown of Yeshiva's 5-out motion offense. Please make sure to follow on Twitter and subscribe on this YouTube channel. And we'll see you next time on Slapping Glass.